There is a connection between working in voiceovers and left-handed Muppets. I speak from experience. Well, hello there. My name is Rowell Gorman. Yeah, that's usually the first reaction I get, but that's my real name, so I might as well go with it. Fortunately, as an experienced voice actor, I can be just about anybody, within certain limitations, I suppose. Now, I know, I realize that it's a lot easier to say these things when you've already had a lot of experience, such as I have, but you don't necessarily need to have the years of experience to be able to tie into the things I'm going to talk about. And I apologize in advance if you think that the title of this thing meant that there was going to be a simple 5-word answer. If there is, I don't know it. What I am going to tell you is that the commonality that I've found between voiceover and the job with the Muppets, and I've done both, was preparation, preparedness, and practice. Before you tune out, let me explain what that meant, at least in my case. Now, I have done voiceovers. I've recently done the voice of Colonel Sanders for KFC Canada for a large interactive project. It was a challenging job, but it was fun. But before that, I've spent years and years doing local radio spots for grocery stores, used car lots, things like that. And then some national stuff, some regional stuff, things for clients you've never heard of. But I picked up some skills and some ease in my delivery. I've learned things from other people along the way. I've learned what I don't want to do, or what I can't do or shouldn't try to do because it doesn't interest me. There are a few other things that have interested me that I have tried, and by golly, they worked out. So that's in my toolkit. You might hear me say that a lot over time, a toolkit, and that's very important. You learn how to look at a page full of words and eventually figure out when you're listening back, another important skill, where those words turned into communication, where you're not just reading the words properly in the right order, you're actually creating an illusion, if nothing else, of talking to someone like you care about them and what you're saying. Some of that may come from learning to pretend as a kid, learning to have a sense of play, reading a lot of different things, fiction and nonfiction. So you learn how to be familiar with different types of characters or be exposed to different ideas. You don't have to believe them, but you can be exposed to them. You can relate. Relating is the whole thing. I was watching cartoons at an early age, totally inappropriate, very violent, and character-laden, and I picked up a lot of things without even knowing it. Timing, accents, to some degree, got tucked away in a toolkit that I kept with me and kept adding to. And I don't see this as having an end point. I'm always learning something. I'm still learning things. Yes, I did work on 2 motion pictures with Jim Henson's Muppets. They put out a regional bulletin to agents and said, we're looking for additional puppeteers, people who can come in and help us with the crowd scenes for these 2 movies.
Hi, cops. I could be on America's Dumbest Criminals. Hi. Do I qualify? I'll give you my phone number.
What I had done up to that point, playing with stuffed toys as a kid, maybe mimicking kiddie records or story records or radio programs when I was younger, working with handmade puppets, working with church puppets, puppets for community groups, things that didn't pay anything at all, but I would pick up things, skills, notice what worked and what didn't over time, and again, that went into the toolbox.
Wiggling dolls is weird. Might even be sick.
So when I was recruited by a radio station here in Raleigh, North Carolina, to come be their production manager, writing, producing commercials, promos, doing the voices for them, and directing other people, adding the sound effects, music. Again, more things in my toolbox, more interactive projects with other creative people. And one of those was the guy upstairs in the television part of the broadcast company who had been doing a local kiddie show on the air, live, and then live on tape for something like 20 years. And I was introduced to him. I had a couple of little puppets. We did a little audition, and it was all ad-lib. There was no script. And I made the host laugh a couple of times, just ad-libbing in character.
Where you used to live in the woods, did it snow there very often?
Well, once or twice per winter, we'd have a pretty big snow. And then we could play around and make snow skunks and all sorts of things.
And that was the start, as Bogart said, of a beautiful friendship with Paul Montgomery. And I was his puppeteer for the next 3 years, until almost the end of the series. I wish I'd been with him a lot earlier. But that gave me the cred to answer that agent call, and I went and auditioned. No guarantee I'd get in, and I knew it wasn't going to be a star turn. But, I heard somebody laugh at the end of one of my little audition bits. They didn't want you to do a whole lot. They said, in your puppet, recite the ABCs. That's it? Yeah, I'm going to see what you do with it. So I did, and I forget what I did at the very end. It was some little shrug that the puppet did before he walked off camera, and I heard somebody laugh. And I found out later it was behind the camera, along with the casting director. It was the guy who does Elmo, or did Elmo at the time, Kevin Clash. So there's something about getting people to laugh at you just for the right reasons. What I'm trying to get at is it wasn't me walking in fresh in either instance and getting the big job, or at least the big paying job in some case. It was me going through a long period of time, loving it, but collecting things for the toolbox, being willing to collaborate, working with people, working off other people, learning to pretend, to play. Which brings me to our next point and our sponsor for these little meetings, voices2go.com. That's voices with a number 2.com. That's my website. Yeah, it's a shameless plug for me and what I do, which I now call Voiceover Helper. Voiceover Helper in terms that I help producers and directors and creative directors as a voice. I take direction, I use my toolkit, and usually without a whole lot of takes and to save some time and money. Also, I use Voiceover Helper to help other voice talent, newcomers and people who are maybe a few years in, or maybe some seasoned talent who just want to do something a little different that they know I can do. So I'm a helper to producers, I'm a helper to voice talent, and I help myself along the way because I almost always learn something, either through the project or the person that I'm working with. The main ingredient is still you, and Voiceover Helper adds no calories to your diet and is gluten-free. Voices2go.com. See if Voices2Go is right for you.
Hey man, you gonna do some more about that left-handed Muppet stuff?
My friend Mr. Zoot is right, and we'll go into the prep, patience, and practice of left-handed puppeteering in part 2 of this visit with the kindly Curmudgeon.